You're the first one in the meeting.
Must be.
Seems weird that we can start the meeting.
Jason said that he does that because he doesn't want people just sitting there waiting. He said that in the last meeting. Is it that long?
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, Jason.
How we doing?
Doing well.
So I can do that.
Audio's messed up. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, it was just my audio was telling me something completely different. Do you guys live like in a condo, Andersons?
No.
This is our basement.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. It looks just really cool.
We got to insulate it from the kids being able to hear us
Gotcha.
picking up.
Oh, how's everyone's week been for the early birds? Some people I'm sure will still gather in a minute.
Is it been another week? I don't even know.
Yeah, today's Monday,
Today's Monday, that day we used to hate.
April 13th. How was everyone's Easter yesterday?
I played golf.
Oh, that's nice. What'd you play?
Nicky Trace.
Very cool. Yeah, I saw some pictures on Instagram of a buddy who just played over there. So it's great. Was anyone able to do anything fun, any traditions, or, what'd you guys do?
We went hiking at John Bryant. It's not like a tradition, but it was nice out, so we did it because that's one of the only things we're allowed to do
It
still.
was legal.
It was legal. Very nice. Cool. Yeah, yesterday, my roommate, actually it was on Saturday, my roommate's mom knew that we weren't going to be able to do anything and that we were quarantined, and so she felt really bad about it and brought us up like an entire Easter feast between breakfast and dinner. So I ate a lot yesterday, and I was watching what certain things I was eating just for Lent this year. So that was a very nice thing to break that with. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. Anyone else? Would you guys anyone else do anything? I know we're also kind of getting used to this, or perhaps even used with this crowd. So it might just take a minute. And I'm good with silence too. Hey, Vincent. Hi, Hunter. Well, Jesse hopefully will be on here shortly to go over band with us as a new means of communication in the network. So before we do that, we're just going to do some check-in and just do a little bit of prayer. So let's just kind of open up with going around the room and sharing. One of my ways that we do this in Alpha is we ask what's going well and what's going weird. And not everyone has to share, but it's kind of a fun little acronym there just to kind of check in. But whether it's in your life personally or in the life of your house church, when there's quite a few of us here, so keep it to a few sentences. But what's something that's going well right now, and what's something that is a little weird in your life and the life of your house churches?
Hey Jason, it's Devin. How you doing, buddy?
Devin, doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, basically our house church just started like a month or two before all of this hit, and so we haven't had much of a gathering, if any, because for starters, we were only first and third Fridays, which is technically what our house church is called, is first and third Fridays. And so if you happen to miss a first Friday, then you only get a third Friday. And so we run into that as kind of a weird obstacle. But yeah, since Zoom started, our attendees are not the most excited to be on technology. So we're still trying to figure out ways to bring them in and stuff like that. But I just figured I'd go first because mine would be the shortest report. But so pray for first and third Friday house church, just that we can try to finally get into that rhythm and make some of that happen. The people who are in our house church are people we're close with. So
Right.
it's not like they're all foreign to us. It's just meeting at a certain time. Because with the 4 families that we've got, it already totals like 16 kids. So that also makes it quite interesting for everybody wanting to get on Zoom or not on Zoom, stuff like that. So
Right.
there you go.
Cool, man. Thanks. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind, and we can keep chatting through that. And I'm sure as some of these new regional stuff gets rolled out, we'll have a space in which we can share ideas and encourage each other and those things. So thanks for sharing. What else? What else is going well and or weird for you guys in your life of your house church?
For us, kind of a unique thing is our family has been doing a Zoom call around the country. And mostly it was an attempt to reach out to a nephew who lives in the New York City area and is pretty wigged out. A lot of his friends have COVID. So that's been a really good thing. It's kind of connected the family. And we've also been trying to think of ways to reach out. We have new neighbors that just moved in 2 weeks ago, haven't had a chance to meet them. So we just, I think they have children, I'm not really sure. So we took over some flowers, some orchids, and an Easter basket, and left it on the porch and just said, this is not what we usually do. We usually don't do social distancing from our neighbors, but I just wanted to reach out and say hi. So that's been kind of weird and good at the same time.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Gary. Anyone else? What's going well and or weird?
My secretary came in my office this morning, and her mother has been in hospice care, and she came in and said that she thinks the end is near. And she's her family's Catholic, and she was upset because her mother wasn't able to be administered last rites by a priest. And it gave me an opportunity to share with her that because of what Christ did on the cross that we celebrated this weekend for, was he hung there and said, "It is finished." And I explained to her what that meant, and brought her to tears. But she left. I sent her on to go down to see her mother to make sure she was with her. And she got there, and about an hour later, her mother passed away. She was able to hold her hand when she took her last breath. But the message that I sent her with was she didn't need a priest there. Her mother already knew Christ through the Catholic religion, but Christ had already performed the last rites for all of us 2,000 years ago.
There was a gospel bomb, so thank you for that, Bob. That was really good.
It was just timing,
Yeah. I think that's so important, like why it's important for us to, maintain our experience in the faith and being rooted into the vine, so that when these, desperate times or unhopeful situations come across, that we're able to give a reason for the hope that's within us. So thanks. Anyone else? It's going well or going weird? I'll share on my house church's behalf because I see Tiffany is here, but I know the Gwendens are gonna have a tough time making it with the new little one. But I have played more games in the last like 3 months than I have ever. And my house church, I just kind of they welcome me in and are loving me and loving each other. So I feel very much wrapped up in their love. So yeah, and then for me, I would just ask for prayer. As far as what's going weird, you can probably hear a cough. Came down with a fever today. So I'll be self-quarantining and loving you all from a distance. But I could definitely use some prayer in that area. So I'm at peace, but definitely weird and not wanted. Others.
I would
Time
say
to check-
something
Yep,
that
sorry.
is going well for us is we've been able to like maintain relationships pretty well amongst our house church peeps. The Zoom every week has gone really well. Everybody's got the hang of it and things. And I just noticed that like various people have like texting chains going on, and I feel like it could get to a point where like, oh, we don't have as many shared experiences. We sort of lose that bond with each other or whatever. But people seem to be really maintaining relationships really well despite not being able to physically see each other. So that's encouraging.
Great. Yeah, it seems like we're all in this tension between well and weird. So hence why asking that. One of the other ways you can ask for what's going well, another way to ask that question perhaps is, what breakthroughs have you experienced this week? What are ways that God's kingdom has begun to shine through? I know in our huddles, we're using that language a lot right now of just what it means to experience breakthrough. So I'll introduce that language. Sort of as you think through what's going well and what's weird, what are some inbreakings of the kingdom? Vincent's.
Yeah, I was going to share that I feel a sense of intimacy that maybe was lacking, not just within our house church, but within our neighborhood. And in the different ways that I feel like it's so easy to explain with the up ins and the outs, as far as like, we're having more outs, even though we're, I don't know, apart, which is really interesting to see. But I think people are more willing to connect at a distance at first before they come closer. And so because it's kind of taken some pressure off in a sense and given an excuse to reach out across the distance. And so Tim and I did a little hymn sing on our front lawn yesterday. It seems like a long time ago. And it was actually our neighbor's idea across the street. And Tim just brought out his guitar and we put it on Nextdoor and on Facebook. Actually, the president of our neighborhood association shared it on Facebook from the Nextdoor. And, you know, we had passed out those things that had said, you know, we're available to help. And, you know, it was weird in some ways, but a lot of people I didn't even talk to. But the one I did talk to, it was like, oh, I'm trying to hand this to you from 6 feet away, but my arm is not actually even like halfway to 6 feet. So it was weird. But then I noticed on Nextdoor today, I posted like a follow-up to the hymn sing, which was cool. The hymn sing was cool as well. People drove up and like sang out of their roofs. What is that called? Sunroof.
One lady did that.
One lady did that. Another lady came and just stood in the street, and we had neighbors on either side of us that came on their porch or were in their pajamas still, so just listened from their front door. And so it was cool because everyone was in their safe spot, but we were connected that way. And so I followed up on Nextdoor and on Facebook today, and Corey Thomas had made us a prayer number for our house church. And it's similar to like the Apex one where it's nobody's specific number, but people can call or text a prayer need to it, and that will send that message out to the church. So we have a house church specific one that Corey made to us. So in follow up to the hymn sing, I just sent out that number and said, like, you know, I feel like our neighborhood has an opportunity to connect across the distance right now, and we're praying for you, and how can we pray for you? And also an invitation to join us on our house church Zoom call. So I don't know that anybody will take us up on it, but I feel like it was just such an open opportunity for us. And I feel like it might be a tradition for us to do a hymn sing on Easter now, you know, like God just created that opportunity for us as well. And much like Jesse shared, like we have a lot of praying for one another spontaneously, not just on the nights that are, you know, are assigned. And I loved the game night idea. So we're doing that this Saturday with our house church. So I feel like there's a lot of connection, and not just because we have to, but because we're spurring one another on, and we love each other. So it's been really beautiful. Yeah.
It's really, that's great. What I love too about that is, one, you know, you're, you know, actively seeking, like, how can we be the ones that bring God's kingdom here on earth? So that's beautiful. And that's what Breakthrough is it's those things in which we're those touch points between heaven and earth for people. I also love the fact that you're using the Zoom number. Obviously, you guys got a little bit of an insider track so far in regards to a special house church number, and we're working on that. So that was your little teaser there. But I love how you're using the Zoom number in order to invite people in. I think we've had this conversation in several different spaces, but people probably in this time are way more comfortable getting on a Zoom call than they might be getting, you know, into someone's home. So it's a really interesting thing the Lord might be doing. So, and that's one of the advantages too of having an Apex Zoom number. I know a lot of us, or some of us, I should say, have our own personal Zoom numbers, but that is one of the advantages of having an Apex Zoom number is you don't have to worry about if you give it out to someone else, whether or not they're going to jump on in the middle of a business call. Anyone else? Something going well? Weird? Experiencing breakthrough? Maybe just one more story.
Yes, Dustin, I can share something. I haven't had any opportunities with anybody directly, but I was kind of like a support for my grandma. She's widowed about 5 years and lives by herself, and she's got a guy across the street from her that takes real good care of her. She's down in northern Kentucky, and he like mows her grass, checks on her all the time, and been very grateful that he does that. I think his mom passed, and he kind of took her under his wing just to make sure she's all right. And from everything she can tell, he's not saved, and she's prayed for him a long time, as long as she's lived next to him. And he's not been open to anything dealing with his own personal faith or lack thereof. But he has asked her from time to time, hey, pray for so-and-so, because he knows she's a praying woman. But just this past week, I think it was, he asked her to actually pray for him. And she said that was kind of a unique thing. Maybe you could call it a breakthrough. So maybe he's being a little more open to God's love, and maybe he's ready to, maybe he's under conviction, who knows? And so something good could come of that. So it was nice to pray with my grandma over the phone on Easter Day. And so that's one example.
Cool, man. Well, thanks everybody for sharing. We'll continue to use that. I definitely encourage you guys to use a question like that in your house churches, just as an opening question. I know some of us will do highs and lows, or what things went well, or like I said, weird. I do like that language of breakthrough, especially in this season, just because it has that idea and gives us that, that extremely positive gospel picture of God's kingdom breaking into the here and now. So tonight is a very special night, because just like 2 weeks ago was a very special night. we introduced a new tool that's at your disposal as shepherds. We'd like to introduce a new tool that that we would encourage you guys to use in your house churches, and we'll definitely be using it at the regional level. And so to be connected into the new regions that are formed and forming, this is going to be the primary communication device that we'll be using. It's called Band. Jesse's going to walk us through the features of Band and how to use it. Region North, Region 1, the former, the artist formerly known as Region 1. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here all night. They've been using Band already, so they'll be showing you a little bit of how that's going to be utilized. But the big thing is, it's only going to be as effective as many people are on there and engaged, like anything else. So as introducing something, a good kind of framework that we like to always use when kind of rolling out strategy, rolling out new things, is talking through what is or was, what could be, and what will be. So kind of want to share first about what has been in the past at Apex in regard to how we've done centralized communication. We've had several different expressions over the years. A lot of those expressions have been cutting edge because, as social media and things like that were forming, so was Apex. And there just never seemed to be a tool that could catch up with where it was that we were going at the time. And so way back when the house churches started forming, they used forums. So if you guys remember in the old days of the internet forums, that's what we used back in that time. But then during the in-between, as those began to shut down, people then began to find their own expressions of communication within their house church. Obviously, the two major expressions have always been email, newsletters, and then whatever the social media du jour is of that day. And so from there, they went into something called the city. The city worked perfectly in a lot of ways between what we needed and what it provided. However, at about 3 years into it, they both started charging way more and then later went bankrupt. So that one no longer was around. A few years later after that, there was the Table Network, and it unfortunately faced a similar fate. One of the things that we've noticed is that there's a lot of people who will engage through various forms of social media, but there's also a lot of people who don't necessarily engage in a particular form of social media because of fears of privacy or because it can get them access to content that they don't necessarily want access to. And so we've always looked for something as far as a communication vehicle that provides a sense of what our values are, what we hold dear, those values being your autonomy, I should say your expressions of your house church and your ability to administer that yourselves, but then also a centralized expression of that in which everyone can also be connected. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse, and he can begin showing you what Band is and the ways that it has been used. Jesse, I just realized that I did not go through a couple of the points. So if you want to pick up on the what could be, that'd be great.
Sure. Thanks for inviting me on here and getting to hang with you all. One anecdotal observation, a lot of y'all have cats, and we have been seeing your cats crawling across the screen quite a bit. I'm very impressed by that. I don't have one, so you won't see that. If there is a cat that goes across my screen, I'm in trouble. So it was good to see y'all. One of the things that when it comes to new technology, we seem to get overwhelmed with it. It has to prove itself. It has, in my mind, there's really two rules that it has to meet. And the first being, is it functional? If it's not functional, people won't buy into it. And then the second one is it as easy as Facebook? And even though it's as simple as Facebook, people don't want to be on that platform for various reasons. But there's something about the way that that platform was created that literally I know 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds that are on it and they can use it. So there's a simplicity to it that's very important. So that was something that we really looked into when it came to what type of communication can we use for our entire network. So we're hoping that you will see both of those rules satisfied as we go forward. One of the things that we also want is when we do communication from the central network, it tends to be one way. You get our newsletters, you get our emails, and really the only way that you can communicate back to us is typically if you know someone on staff or you have kind of an inside route, and it really seems to be hit or miss in how communication functions. And so we want to open that up so that there's communication not only going from Apex leadership to the House Church Network, but also from the network back to the leadership, so that there's just constant communication happening. And we also want a space where people can share life digitally. Like it or not, we are in a space where we're going to go digital. We are right now being forced to, and people are learning who don't necessarily want to do this kind of lifestyle. But really, what we're trying to pray through and lean into is what is God showing us, and what is He revealing in terms of how He wants us to connect with the world, and is it by us standing against technology? Maybe, but I think if we lean into it and we redeem technology, we have an opportunity really to make connections that can ultimately lead to people becoming followers of Jesus. And so we want to lean into this. And so we wanted to find a platform where people can create videos, they can host photos, they can host all kinds of different chats and different ways without the chaos and the mess of Facebook. We want something simple and to the point and doesn't distract you kind of from everyday life. We want something that really helps with life. And so we're wanting to see that, but then we're also wanting to serve you guys in a way that you won't feel let down by the technology. And so we have been testing this, as Jason said, in now what is Region North. And we have been testing it with the Affinity Block teams and in house churches and several different things just to see if it does work. And we have found that with a little bit of a learning curve, it really does. And so with that, we're just wanting to kind of give you just a little bit of an overview of what this platform is. And some of you may have...
Jesse, real quick, just to give a summary of everything that he just said, is at a network level, it's a model of communication that expresses our values of Oikos and Temple. At the house church and regional level, it's freedom for house churches and regions to communicate, plan, and have a place to live life digitally. From a personal level, we want to make sure that there's privacy, security, and a lack of distraction. And then at a missional level, we want it to be something that is scalable without additional cost, that it's simple, that it's repeatable and accessible. That means that it can transfer from one culture to another culture without too much struggle.
Yes.
All right, sorry.
Correct.
Just for those of us who are bullet pointed minded.
Yes. So we wanted to make sure that we really were thinking through it from every level, and that it really did deliver in each one of those categories that Jason was mentioning. So when we started looking at some of the different technologies that were out there, we know that some of you have been trying to find ways to communicate that is some of you are using just text messaging, some of you are using GroupMe or using Slack as a means of communication. And when we look at what Band has to offer versus what's the other forums can do, what really makes those other platforms work is that they're really good at one thing. So they're really good at either communication, or they're really good at the business side of things. But they're not comprehensive in what we would really need to see from a standpoint of seeing life together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm going to just show you how it matches up with some of the other popular means of communication. So let me do a screen share here. And so here we have all the major ways of communicating lined up next to each other. And so like you can see, there are different strengths that happen with each one. But there's some means that we don't get with the others. So one of the things that we also, when we're considering this, and is probably one of the most important, is scalability. So when it comes to scalability, if it comes at a cost, typically that's going to become a hurdle the larger that your group, your house church, your region grows. And that primarily is one of the things that has stopped us from using Slack. If you notice, if you've used Slack before, it typically limits you to the number of messages or features that you can have before it starts charging you. Band is a platform that's completely free, and all of the check marks that you see here are completely free as well. You notice that the member limit is unlimited, and it has strengths in nearly every area that some of these other groups don't have. So as we began seeing those positives, we then wanted to further test that and see if really those things do work. So Band has become something from an overview that really does offer probably more than we've even been able to lean into. If you notice, I'm taking you right now to this is the Band desktop. You can do it online, but they also have a desktop app that you can use, and it can also be used on your phone. And so really,
Yep.
there's
Jesse,
yes.
we can't see the desktop. We still see your Slack.
That's cool. So let me find that real quick. Zoom share. Okay. Now, do you guys see?
Nope.
Ooh. Okay. Well, hopefully this doesn't take away your confidence in our ability to use technology. So let me bring that up real quick.
So yeah, stop your share and then just restart the whole process.
Yeah, new share. Okay. All right. Stop share. Okay, and then bring up.
I appreciate the external commentary on your actions.
Well, I'm trying to give a little bit of a play-by-play to make you feel like you're a part of this.
I mean, you're the external processor, so you're really loving this.
Yes, this
on
is
external processors. Yeah, I mean, that's all I do.
Yeah.
You never have to question what I'm thinking or feeling at any moment of any time in your friendship with me. So
okay. Here we go, folks. I'm going to try. Let's see.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Okay. Hey. All right. Well, so right here, I'm going to take you to kind of the main page where you can set up band. You can make as many as you want. And so what we've actually gone ahead and done is we have begun to create these different ones so that you can, each house church has its own, so you don't have to go through the process of creating. We have created it for you, and then as you begin, your house church begins to utilize this, we can then, I hand over administrative rights to you, so then you don't have Big Brother who is just sitting there all the time. So we've got our different house churches that are color-coded with our north, south, and then central. And then what we will be a part of, particularly as staff, is we then have our various regional bands, which is where we want to encourage every person in the region, not just house church shepherds, but every person in the region to participate, because then that will take care of the bottleneck. So sometimes as shepherds, you have strengths in a lot of areas, but sometimes you get so busy with things that communications are dependent on one person, and we found that that tends to be a place where communication falls apart. And so we want people to be able to have direct access to this. So as an example, just clicking and going into the regional one, we have different ways that we have begun to utilize it. So one example that we've had, this is like an example of a communication that we have for people within Region 1 for sharing some of the stories and stuff that are coming out of it. So I had a form that was created and was able to be shared with folks where I could explain it to them. And I know from my screen, I can then see how many people have read it, have checked it out, and then can see how well it's being received. And then I can, from this, also then continue to push the other folks who haven't read it and sending them messages of saying, hey, this is something important that we would like you to look at. Make sure that you check that out. We also have other kinds of posts where we've been having, this is an example of one of the feedings that we've been doing of delivering packages to people who are currently sheltered. And we were able to just share the event in this space. Take a photo, share some of the details, and people can see in the moment the type of things that are happening within the network. You can also host videos. I'll not do that. We'll have events. So Rennis and Julie Bowers, if you remembered them sharing with the network about the Jesus Film Packing Party, we were able to have them share on here some of the details and then create an event. And the event was then able to share ways to get in contact and then the location and everything that was needed. So really it has served as quite a way for us to be involved as a region. And again, the major point though, as Jason said, is that it becomes, the more that people use it, the more effective of a tool it is. And so we have begun to see how that's been useful. So that you can trust that I didn't use this just by myself. You do have a video down here of Jillian Vincent. I won't play that, Jillian. But she was able to share about the Bible study that was happening before the service on Sundays, and kind of just explain a little bit about that and the needs and ways for people to get involved. So from a basic overview, there are lots of ways that you can be involved in this. If we want to create like a post, this is where we shared that the usability is very similar to Facebook. So you would just click like you would on Facebook, make a post, and all of the options that you have to make the post are just down here as icons. So you have, sending a photo. This is South Korean based, so this, you can make a sticker That's really big in their culture. So that's one of the things that they added in there. If you want to, go ahead. You can add video in here. Any video that's 3 minutes and under, they will have that remain on band for basically forever. Anything that's longer than 3 minutes, it's on there for about 30 days. So we try to archive that through a different format, through YouTube or something like that. Another option that we have is live streaming. So the interesting thing about live streaming is that, kind of like how we have been operating our Sunday gatherings right now, we have the ability to be able to operate some gatherings that are happening, whether someone is away, someone's sick, someone's working. A lot of times that tends to really affect the community when you don't have a number of people there. But with live streaming, you can be filming it as it's happening. People can come in, they can comment on what's happening. And if they are, unable to do it at that time, then it posts the live stream onto your page, and people can log in later and see it. It has further functionality from polls, which if you want to create different polls, you can ask different questions, whether it's you wanting to get people's opinions on which weekend is the best for doing, a block party, or being able to sing with your neighbors. You can do something on there to get people's opinions. You can attach files of various formats on here. So those documents that we had, the little cards that we shared in our regions, where we went door to door and asked people if they needed help, I just shared that file on there, and people were able to click on them and print them out. Another option that you have that's very helpful is you have the ability to do events with a breakdown of the location of the event itself. You can then also create RSVPs on here, where people can put in what they want. This integrates within your Google Calendar, also with Outlook and other ways of integrating, so that can fit in there as well. And you can do recurring events and all kinds of stuff. Then to-do lists, fairly simple, but the idea though is if you have an event or an activity that you're doing, you can say, hey, I need someone to bring X, Y, Z, and then you can have someone who takes that and is able to, that you have everything covered. And same thing with the sign-up sheets. This can be huge for people who are bringing items together for food. And then several other ones that, you can also use, won't go into much, is just attendance, bill splitting, whether you guys purchase something collectively, whether you go out to eat or something like that. That's also something that can be shared. So that is a general overview that we have of Band and what its functionality is. You can see that it categorizes stuff even on your main page, from your private chats to your files. You can create your photos and photo books. And it allows it all to kind of be stored in the same place. So I know that's a lot of information to come at you. It's really, really simple though. When you start getting into it, if you've used Facebook, you do know how to utilize this. And so want to hand it over to Jason to kind of take us into the next part.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, Jesse, if you can stop sharing your screen, I'm just going to show you how the mobile app works. So give me 1 second to get you going on that.
Jesse, your tabs were giving me a heart attack.
What? I'm sorry. That's
You
actually,
could close at least 5 right now.
honestly, I had it before my big issue, when I had the sharing issue. I had it with only 2 tabs open because I knew someone would notice, but then I had to open the other one. So I'm sorry.
So I agree with that. Chad Osborne is really bad at that too. So yeah, Jeff was having a great time reading your tabs, Jesse. Says Jesse Anderson. So what I want to do is just show you what this looks like on your phone. As you guys can see here, I'm not nearly in as many things as Jesse is right now because he is obviously helping you all get yours set up. This is what mine would look like, just being a member of Kettering Collective House Church. And then also I'm part of Regions North, South, and Central as well, because as an administrator here through the network. And so just staying in touch with that. And with these, this will become the primary means by which we communicate out to you all within the network. We'll still do newsletters that come out from Central, probably still do some emails in the meantime, but we really like to get folks migrated over to this platform for our primary means of communication, so that we're not, doing a bunch of reply alls, or we don't feel like we can't reply because we don't want to do a bunch of reply alls to people and load up that. So I'm going to just go back into the Region North, since that's already established, and you can see what it looks like. And as you can tell, it's very much like a feed, like you would get on with any other social media. I have an unread important notice up here, so I'll click that. And here is something, that video that Jesse said he wasn't going to play, and I'm playing it for you. So that's quite all right. And again, you can see who has interacted with that and who hasn't. So if I go back to that, you can here see who's interacted and who hasn't. So, use fear, guilt, and shame if band doesn't work to get them back on the right page, on the right track. Please know that that was a joke. We don't use fear, guilt, and shame at Apex. I can easily go in though, and up here again, you see create a new post, and I'll just put, hey all, doing a band trial. And then I want to add a photo. Camera, can you tell I'm taking a lot of, our family shares a lot of, and then you all get to say hi. So as simple as that, you guys know how to use social media, but there you'll see the post has now been made. I can easily go in from this and live stream if I want, but you'll notice there along the bottom, there are various things. So here's the album that we just had for this particular band. I can actually go and chat with specific members. So I can go into here to chat, and I can just say, hey, Jesse, what's up? So, because obviously I'm his boss and he owes me reports. It's not true at all. So you can use this for personal one-on-one discipleship. You can also create groups within this. See there, Jesse said no. You can create groups within this experience for people. So say you have quads or things like that. You can use this in addition to Zoom for that one-on-one type stuff. This is what we would call communication that is more asynchronistic. So it's communication that doesn't require us all to be at the same place at the same time. Whereas what we're doing right now with Zoom, this is synchronistic communication. And so that's the difference between these different tools. And then I can just go back over here, and this is my chat. But in the top left is my arrow, and I can quickly switch from the region that's in the north, and here I am back at home, and I can go to Kettering Collective. Now, no one's in this yet because it's just me, but I could easily do all the exact same things that I was doing with Region North with just Kettering Collective. And here's the best part. Only the people who are part of Kettering Collective see what I post to Kettering Collective. Only the members that are part of Region North see what's posted to Region North. So even though I can quickly access both of those, it remains strictly within that band, within that community that I posted with. So you just got to make sure that you're posting to the right crowd. I'm sure that we might have a little bit of, you know, hiccups there along the way, just like, you know, grandma accidentally posts her Google search into her Facebook feed. I recently got back onto Facebook, and there have been multiple times where I've created posts of, you know, looking up someone's name because I thought I was searching for them as opposed to actually writing a post. So that's fun. But you can do the exact same things here. Again, like with the live streaming and things like that, some of us are using Marco Polo or things like that. This just allows us to do it in this space as well, without everyone needing to download 20 different apps across, you know, a bunch of different platforms, depending upon which house church that they're in. So I'll go back to home and just show you again here. I can, from the home, quickly access any of my bands. I can see my feed, which is everything that's the latest. I can see what my notifications are. I can engage chat very quickly, and then I can go into my more specific personal preferences, or I can go back to my particular band. And so that is, that's band from an overview. Again, our desire is that everyone be involved at the regional level, as many people as can be, empower people to be engaged in that. And then also for your house church to consider transferring from whatever you're currently using and into band, so that we can be doing this from an integrated whole across the network. To begin with region and house church. What does that mean, Jesse? Sorry. Oh, there's a question from Tim Hamlin.
Yes. So I was just answering that on there. So really, when we are starting this out, we're just focusing on region and house church at this point. You have the ability, because all of these bands are unlisted, but there's actually a point where you can have them be public. And so we are beginning to think through, would it be good to have a public profile where we're able to engage with people? This bands are being used by a lot of younger folks and teams and different things like that. And so as a way of engaging with people, we might be doing like an Apex wide one. But we have to test that. So for you to begin with, it will just be region and house church.
Yeah, and we would encourage region and house church for every member of your house church, that they're engaged both at the house church level and at the regional level. I think all of you can agree that we've had a lot of you know, bifurcation and splitting between those two, and just in this new kind of, you know, new expression of Apex as we move into these new regions, trying to cross those gaps as possible. Karen, you raised your hand. Thanks. You're muted.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I had to figure out how to unmute. I had a long day. So here's my question. Wanting to integrate both, like, all of our house church participants into the regional level, you figure you have 15 people in a house church times 10 house churches in a region. So that's 150 people-ish using the regional one. Will all 150 people be able to post, or is that going to be kind of moderated?
So you can set administrative rights really to tailor this to how it works. At this point, we would probably, I really doubt that the floodgates are going to open, and this is, you know, the social platform everyone has been looking for. So like, I think people will begin to slowly begin posting on there as they're more comfortable. But I think like the question might be a little bit about leadership as well. Like, what do you talk about as, you know, are you going to only be able to talk about leadership issues in front of 150 people or things like that? We would encourage, as your comfortability grows with this, that then like the regional leadership itself could potentially have its own band. And this would be more about, so one of the things that we had in Region North that I didn't show was like someone needed help moving, a single lady needed help moving. And so we were able to put that request out there which is some of the stuff that people really do miss about the table, was that ability to be able to just openly share, hey, I have this need or this event or things like that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, I know Facebook, and it's like all of a sudden you're going to have like 12 posts about their cats and their kids going to whatever. Like,
yes.
That's I guess what I just foresee it devolving into.
Right. No, very good point. And that's the great thing about this is I do think at a regional level, there'd probably be a regional leadership band so that the leadership can stay in touch, but then also a regional community band so the whole of the region and its community can be in touch. There could be cross-pollination.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions. We did have a physical hand raised by Jesse Anderson. We'll go to that one first, and then we've got a couple questions on the group chat as well that we'll get to. So Jesse, do you still have the question?
Yeah, thanks for noticing my physical hand. I couldn't find the button.
Yeah.
Well, so I was just wondering, it would be useful if there was a functionality where, like, if something was posted at the regional level and it needed to be communicated out to the house churches, if it would automatically also post in those regions' house church pages. I doubt it can do that.
Oh yes, Jesse, band. Your expectation of band has always been down here, and I keep raising the bar. Yes, you can push notifications out to other bands as
That's
well.
very useful.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Tim and Jillian, you asked, will you guys invite us to the individual house church band, or is another way to access those? So to answer that first one, yes, we've created those already for you. Jesse is going to invite you to those, and I'll actually show you an extremely simple way because you all have already been invited, whether or not you realize it. And the way that you access your invitation and that you can share your invitation is if you go to, I'll share my screen now. So if you go to the drive, and here most recently, we've had the Apex House Church Master List that we've been having you guys update. Again, you'll notice that there is the updated regions, but we've begun to include additional information in these, including your Zoom. So obviously you guys already have your email address, but then now you have your Zoom personal ID that is included in this. If you've got the red there, that means that you're not on Apex Zoom yet, but then also your band sign up code. So just copy and paste that. And when you copy and paste that and share that with members in your house church, they will automatically be able to join that. Now, currently, Jesse is the administrator for each of the bands since he set them up. So he will be the one approving that for the time being until he's able to identify who the other band administrators are. And when he does that over the course of the next day or two, he'll relinquish administrative rights back to you. I'm sure Jesse, either you and I can be in each of these bands for at least the first week or so, just to make sure that we can answer questions as they might be arising.
Certainly, and since I'm in them all already, I can be in there really to answer any questions, and then you'll probably have to pay me to exit. So probably $10 a pop on that. So we do have a question in here for Ashley Webb.
Real quick, there's a second question from Jillian for quads, because I'm sure Ashley asked you privately, as he does often.
No.
So the second question from the Vincents is, for quads, do you recommend private chat rooms within the band group or another band for quad? That's up to you. Anyone can easily create their own band if they'd like. And then it can invite anyone that they like. And so I personally don't have, whatever that is, phrase where you care about something. That doesn't matter to me as much, but that's probably something that I would have you guys as, what's that phrase? Stick in the fire? I can't remember.
Okay, so
dog in the fight.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, stick in the fire, dog in the fight.
All right. So what was Ashley's question?
Okay, so I've got three things that I'm organizing here. So we've got Ashley, and then we've got Ian, who has a hand raised, and then we'll get to Dustin. So Ashley said, is there a way for band to link to other social media platforms? So the way that it is written, it has an open API so that it
I
can.
asked, is there a way to ban links to other social media platforms?
Ban.
Ban, like
BAN, not band.
BAN, like no
So what
kitten
you're saying-
photos or
Right,
no
right.
stuff from
Yeah.
Facebook. So it
Yeah,
doesn't
So that
come
is
Facebook.
that is the nice thing again about being an administrator type thing, is that you're able to edit, delete other people's posts. So if it's not like Facebook where it's unmoderated and it's a completely open platform. This is a moderated platform. And that's one of the things that I would suggest that we even identify amongst house church leadership as we form, regional leadership, is as we form regional leadership team, we probably need someone who is in charge of communication for each region, or a couple people who are in charge of communication for each region, and they will be the primary ones who help administer at the band level. I'm getting some heads up on that, so that's a good idea.
Also, Ashley, this was really created for coaches to work with teams of students. So there's a lot of security that's built in, even from parental control standpoint. And a lot of those things can even be administered so that you can have as free reign as you want on here, or it can be limited as well. So it's really neat for that because I was kind of reading about the parental aspects. But that answers some of that. Ian, you have your hand raised.
All right. Hey, I got a two-part question. If I'm trying to describe the main point of why we're doing bands to people that really don't know about it yet, is this accurate when I'm about to say that, like, Apex has been working on how do we communicate better as a church, and this is Apex's response to allow Apex to communicate better with house churches better communicate with Apex, and also house churches communicate with each other within regions and overall. Is that an accurate-ish statement?
Very accurate.
Yep,
okay,
very well
great.
said.
My second question, so there's a lot of inertia with getting people to use new apps or new platforms. And one thing that I could never get on board at the table is that there really wasn't a lot of people putting new content on there, and the people that was like, hey, I've got a garage sale, or hey, help me move my stuff. So there wasn't a lot of incentive for me to get on there. So my question is, how do you plan to sell this so that a lot of Apex actually uses it, so that it actually is a legitimately useful forum? Because there's clearly, it's got all the tools you need. It's really nice, but you have to convince people. So what is Apex's plan to do that?
Well, so the first thing that I mentioned was the two rules. So again, functionality and ease of use, so that the learning curve, hopefully we're all about flattening curves right now. So we're flattening that one too, that there really shouldn't be any hurdles for people to be able to understand it. From that point, it doesn't try to be the answer for everything. And I feel like that's really what the table tried to do. And it really tried to provide ways for groups and different things to even form within. It got really cluttered really quickly. And what I like about the focus of Band is the fact that it is focused around family units, team units, and the kind of communication that is needed to really kind of move forward. So what's really interesting as people do begin to use this is I really hope to see house church stories become the norm on here. So as a house church is doing something, they just take a photo real quick or something and post it on there. And we begin to actually set the momentum for the type of communication that we desire. But I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly about the fact that you really do need to justify a new technology for folks, or they won't use it. And so hopefully, as we begin rolling this out, we will be able to kind of help define the vision for it.
So if I could add to that, we have a model at Apex. It's always been a struggle with finding a technology that works for us between the one and the many, like the one being the gathering, the many being the house churches.
Mm-hmm.
With the city years ago, it was really good at doing the many, right? Every single house church having their own community. And I know when I was engaged with that way back when, I'm not sure how many people were on the city way back when, but it was a very useful tool that worked across the board. Lots of engagement because each house church had its own private space. When it came to the table, their strength was the many. It was kind of like a private social network for a church, but it wasn't very good at the group function, right? What this is good at is you can just be fully engaged with just your house church and engage at the network level as much as you want. But I think then for the leadership here, especially, before, I would encourage us, before we necessarily roll it out and get every single house church shepherd onto, every single member of a house church onto like a region, for example, I think it would probably be wiser for us all to begin using it within our own regions and making sure that we're being connected and using the tool, and then slowly build it out to get other people in.
Yeah. I mean, just to push back a little bit, functional and ease of use, like email is like that. Facebook, Instagram is like that. So when you say that band is also like that, well, that's great, but it's not pushing the needle for some people, I think. I think maybe house church shepherds really could really kind of be the leaders on the ground on helping people to get use on band. But I'm sure you guys are talking about plans on how to convince people to use this.
But I would say what you just said is, and this is why we're introducing it to you all first to begin using it here, is because we are the leaders in this, and it is going to be something that is as effective as how well we utilize this as the means of communication for us, to bring us all on the same page. Because the reality is we're all communicating. The question isn't whether or not we're communicating. The question is how we're communicating and with what platform. And because we're all communicating with different platforms right now, that's great for us at the small level, but it's not great for us at the network experience.
And then, Dustin, I think you had asked a question about your house church going over to a new one. It is basically, if your house church is already using a band, you don't need to use the one that I set up. So just continue to use yours. We would then just invite you to your regional one, which you already are and are participating. So you're really good to go. We wanted to do the legwork for the people who didn't want to go through the process of setting it up. So you can continue because it'll function the same.
Do you want us to replace out our logo with your fancy logo you made there?
I mean, it's up to you. The reason why we did it that way was just when I went to like the band as the owner of them, I was able to just see regions and it categorizes them really well. But remember, as you guys get used to it, get booted out of more and more. So I don't really need it to be that neat. Because I won't have access to each house church's.
I will say that from a community experience, having the common branded thing does communicate that we're all part of the same team and the same family doing the same mission. So that might be more of a businessy answer a little bit to that question. But I do think somehow these imagery matters, and so I would encourage from my side. Now, we're not a system here in which we demand anything of you guys. We ask for mutual submission and all of these things. So you'll never hear us, laying down any sort of, iron fist in these regards.
Yeah, I guess just somehow shoot me over the image, whether it's a JPEG or whatever it is, and I can insert that. Is there more than one way to set up a band? So like maybe you have certain settings the way you like them, and whenever, I don't know exactly how Craig did it, he just kind of he was proactive and just went ahead and set one up. So I don't know if there's more than one way to set them up to where we need to adjust and match the way you did it to be consistent.
Right now, they're all just at the default settings. So there's nothing that right now that's consistent, but then I think as each group adapts to its needs, the settings can change. And so I'm willing to help each of the house churches understand like how the different settings can help them, and things like that. But there's nothing that you have to catch up to.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then Jason just shared the spreadsheet for the master list that has the code on there and that you can click and join.
If you don't have access to that, just request access and I'll try to get it to you real quick. Also with that master sheet, please make sure that your information is updated, and you'll notice on the far left, there's a column for you to note when you last updated that information. So this is just way simpler for us than sending you out a WUFU form every 6 months. This just keeps it up to date. Well, any other questions about band? All right. Well, we'll let you guys get going for this evening. Thanks for tuning in. Sign up as soon as you can, especially begin engaging at the regional level, because that's the one that we're all definitely going to be connected with. And we want to just shore up that new regional identity as quickly and as possible. So let me pray for you guys, and we'll call it an evening. Pray. Father God, just thank you so much for my sisters and brothers on this call. Thank you for their overwhelming sense of just service to you in your kingdom. I pray that you would give them rest as they end their day to wake up tomorrow on another day of mission for you, mission to their families, missions to their neighbors, their loved ones, Lord. Thank you for this new sense of unity that you're causing, Lord. We just pray that you would continue to strengthen our bonds of unity and continue to weave us together in the great tapestry of your family here at Apex. Lord, we pray for our city and its blessing, especially in this time. We ask all these things, Father, in your Son's name. Amen. All right, well, feel free, shoot us more questions. Send us texts if you have our numbers, emails, and we'll be happy to respond. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you.
Adios.